Making the headlines tonight. Prime Minister Hun Sen urges the US-ASEAN Business Council to continue investing and exploring more investment potential in Cambodia. The president of the Cambodian Red Cross, First Lady Bunrani Hun Sen, celebrates National Midwifery Day. Protesters for and against support to Ukraine demonstrate in the Bulgarian capital Sofia as lawmakers vote on how much support to give the country in its fight against Russia's invasion. The shirt worn by Diego Maradona when he scored two of the most famous goals in soccer history was sold for a record £7.14 million. And Legend Olympia hosted the first screening of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness on Wednesday night. This is the Daily Roundup on EAC News Channel. A very good evening to you. I'm Darshana Gauchan. Prime Minister Hun Sen has urged the US-ASEAN Business Council to continue investing and exploring more investment potential in Cambodia. The Prime Minister's urging came as he met with the US-ASEAN Business Council, headed by Senior Vice President and Regional Managing Director Michael Michalak, to the Peace Palace on Thursday morning. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has the details.
During the meeting, the US-ASEAN Business Council Senior Vice President and Regional Managing Director Michael Michalak thanked the Prime Minister for his support for business in the ASEAN region and also praised the Prime Minister's leadership of ASEAN. He further informed Prime Minister Hun Sen about the interests of his administration in the fields of energy, factory assembly, car assembly, and the promotion of the digital economy in Cambodia. In response, Prime Minister Hun Sen said he welcomed the involvement of the United States in the development of Cambodia's energy sector and encouraged U.S. investors to continue investing and exploring more investment potential in Cambodia. The Prime Minister's personal assistant, Ing Supol Light, told reporters after the meeting. The Prime Minister also welcomed the installation of a car assembly plant in Posat province and encouraged all companies to continue investing and seeking more potential to invest in Cambodia. Michael Michalak's delegation attending the meeting with Prime Minister Hun Sen included 13 American company representatives. U.S. car maker Ford has now begun its assembly line project in Cambodia, located in the Krakow Special Economic Zone in Posat province. The plant has an investment value of about $21 million. Dekanin, EAC News.
The president of the Cambodian Red Cross, First Lady Bunrani Hun Sen, celebrated National Midwifery Day on Thursday by congratulating the progress and achievements of the Ministry of Health in mobilizing the remaining Cambodian midwives after the Democratic Kampuchea regime, who have all overcome all obstacles and assisted women in antenatal care, childbirth, and postnatal care to achieve the development levels of today. She has also called on all midwives to continue doing good work and promoting reproductive health education to the public. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has the story.
In the Cambodian Red Cross presidential congratulatory message for the National Midwife Day, First Lady Bunrani Hun Sen praised and thanked all Cambodian midwives who had sacrificed everything, including their personal and family health, to fulfill their duties even during the COVID-19 pandemic. She called on all midwives to continue educating members of the public on reproductive health, prevent disease transmission from mother to child, preventing unwanted pregnancies and pregnancy complications, providing contraception and other necessary services related to midwifery work. At the same time, she also called on all pregnant women to go to regular health checkups, deliver their babies at health centres and referral hospitals, to make sure they check up on their health after birth delivery and get their babies vaccinated. She further emphasised the importance of getting regular checkups for children and take any child, baby or toddler to the hospital if they develop a fever, show any symptoms of illness or breathing difficulties. She further thanked the Royal Government of Cambodia, the Ministry of Health, relevant institutions, national and international organisations, the private sector and development partners who have been supportive of midwifery. She added that she sincerely hopes that the Royal Government of Cambodia will continue to increase investment capacity and achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Additionally, the Cambodian Red Cross and the National Elite Team will continue to actively cooperate with the Ministry of Health in dismantling key messages throughout the media to raise awareness on women's health, childbirth, postpartum care, elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis, the importance of breastfeeding, vaccinations for babies and nutrition for children. The president of Cambodian Red Cross noted that despite the COVID-19 pandemic, the healthcare system in Cambodia continued to operate throughout the country and achieve a decline in maternal for 170 deaths per 100,000 live birth deaths in 2014 to 141 deaths per 100,000 live births in 2019. At the same time, rate and birth conducted by skilled health workers increased from 85% in 2016 to 89% in 2020. And the birth rate as health facilities also increased from 80% to 89% during the same period. It should be noted that the National Midwifery Day is this year held under the theme, Investing in Midwives to Strengthen the Primary Health Care System and Provide a Pathway to Universal Health Coverage. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The Cambodian Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn, and the ASEAN Secretary General, in his capacity as ASEAN Humanitarian Assistance Coordinator, Dato Lim Ja Khoi, will co-chair the consultative meeting on ASEAN humanitarian assistance to Myanmar on 6th May in Phnom Penh via video conference. EAC News reporter Dekka Nin has more details.
According to a press release issued on Thursday, 5th of May, the consultative meeting will be attended by high-level representatives from all ASEAN member states, ASEAN external partners, United Nations specialized agencies, and other relevant international organizations, both physically and virtually. The press release further states that the consultative meeting will provide a high-level platform for ASEAN to initiate a multi-stakeholder dialogue that serves to provide a guidance on how to advance ASEAN's humanitarian assistance to the people of Myanmar based on humanitarian principles and without discrimination. Additionally, all those in attendance at the meeting will discuss mutually agreeable solutions on how to enhance the delivery of humanitarian assistance in Myanmar whilst leaving no one behind, how to address the operational challenges faced by the ASEAN Coordinating Center for Humanitarian Assistance on Disaster Management, and how to support the distribution of COVID-19 vaccines to all communities in Myanmar. Cambodia assumed the ASEAN chairmanship on the 1st of January 2022. Prime Minister Hun Sen appointed the Cambodian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn, as the special envoy of the ASEAN chair. The Deputy Prime Minister made his first visit to Myanmar in March, where he met with Myanmar military leader Senior General Min Aung Hlaing and also delivered humanitarian assistance from Cambodia to a local hospital. Dekka Nin, EAC News.
The Minister of Public Works and Transport, Senior Minister Sun Chanthol, said that when the Kampot Logistics and Multi-Purpose Port Investment Project is completed, it will provide about 10,000 jobs. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
Speaking at the groundbreaking ceremony on Thursday, the 5th of May, of the construction of the Kampot Logistics and Multi-Purpose Port Investment Project in Bokor City, Kampot Province, Senior Minister Sun Chanthol said that this port will play an important role in organising logistic warehouses, a special economic zone and fuel and gas centres in Cambodia. This port will complete the work of the Sihanoukville Autonomous Port of Phnom Penh. He said that if the port can access the Bassac River, it will play an important role in transporting our agricultural products across the country through the waterways to the sea, to the port of Kampot and export abroad. The Senior Minister added that the port will be developed in 3 stages, with the first stop being a prepared port to handle 300,000 TEUs by 2025 and 600,000 TEUs by 2030. The port has a depth of 15 to 16 metres and can allow ships up to 100,000 tonnes to dock. The port can be a special economic zone, special trade zone, a liquid storage facility for LNG, LPG, oil, all of which are included with the port project plan, within the first phase costing $200 million. The budget will go up to $1.5 billion in later phases. The Minister of Public Works and Transport also stated the Construction and Investment Centre, Logistics Centre and Multi-Purpose Port of Kampot Logistics and Export Co Limited will contribute to the development of Cambodia to be more prosperous and become a high-income country by 2050. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The Australia-Cambodia Cooperation for Equitable Sustainable Services, or ACCESS, has released its 6-month employment report, which shows that the program has helped 610 persons with disabilities gain employment and 22 women with disabilities get entrepreneurship training, with the support and promotion of the Secretary General of the Disability Action Council. EAC News reporter Dekka Nin has the story.
During the hybrid 10th Disability Workstream meeting, the second secretary of the Australian Embassy to Cambodia, Connor Floyd, stated that over the 6 months between October 2021 to March 2022, Access helped rehabilitate a total of 9,686 persons with disabilities, including 3,226 women. In addition, the program also helped a total of 610 persons with disabilities get job opportunities. From this number, 24 were self-employed, 43 were employed in various institutions, 13 employed in business loans, and 497 employed in vocational training and counseling. There were also other activities under the program related to strengthening gender equality, disaster response, fighting cooperation, and data collection. The second secretary also expressed support for Australian-Cambodian partnership and hoped that employment activities in the field of disability in Cambodia will continue to grow. Floyd said, "I am confident that through our large access partnership, mobilizing strong expertise and commitment, and under Secretary of State M. Jamakara's guidance, we can address these challenges. As my colleagues and I turn to the end of program review and design of the Access Successor program, maybe called Access 2, will take place from July 2022. Disability inclusion at all levels, including in policies formulation, programming, and implementation is the front of our minds." According to the head of the disability program, Ju Vivot, Access has contributed to the implementation of the National Disability Strategic Plan 2019 to 2023 by helping persons with disabilities find employment, access health services and rehabilitation, and also facilitated gender equality, disaster response, cooperation, and the collection of disability data. The head of the program further added that from October 2021 to March 2022, Access organized a national forum on employment and business with a disability-friendly environment and set up a mobile phone program to help persons with disabilities called OKA. In organizing the OKA mobile app, Access also compiled and collected data from persons with disabilities, which found that more than 140,000 persons with disabilities in Cambodia are unemployed. This is according to the Director of Welfare at the Ministry of Social Affairs, Yip Malino. He added that the government is currently mobilizing the private sector to participate in the recruitment and reception of persons with disabilities. He said, "We now manage persons with disabilities and the needs of the labor market. So persons with disabilities have the opportunity to get jobs and economic opportunities." Speaking at a meeting, the Secretary of State for the Ministry of Social Affairs and Secretary General of the Disability Action Council, M. Jamakara, requested a study on why more than 140,000 persons with disabilities in Cambodia are unemployed, in order to develop new strategies to help them. He said, "If we can complete the research on the education levels of the 140,000 people, we can conclude the strategies needed to help them." The Secretary of State also expressed his appreciation for the achievements made by the Access program and encouraged the work done in the past 6 months to be implemented in the next quarter to even better results. He added that the participation of representatives of ministries, government institutions at both the national and subnational levels, and from partner organizations greatly contributes to the implementation of the current National Disability Strategic Plan, especially on key priorities such as support mechanisms, facilitation of the disability sector at both the national and subnational levels, support access to rehabilitation services, health services, legal services, employment and business opportunities, and other support services to access various benefits from the implementation of environmentally friendly social protection programs, and facilitating the participation of persons with disabilities in policy making, implementation, and program monitoring. Under Access, a total of 4,170 employment opportunities were created for persons with disabilities by the end of 2021. From this number, 156 received employment, 243 were self-employed, and 57 women were trained to become entrepreneurs. Access is a 5-year initiative with financial support from the Australian government provided through the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. In the last 3 years, Australia has pledged 50 million Australian dollars through Access to improve quality, sustainability, and integrate services for persons with disabilities and for women affected by gender-based violence. The Australian government is currently planning to add another 10 million Australian dollars through Access for the remaining 2 years of the 5-year program to reflect the Royal Government's COVID-19 response and recovery efforts, including its priorities on social protection. Dekanin, EAC News.
Cambodia has reported 1 new COVID-19 case in the local community. There have been 11 patient recoveries and no new deaths. The kingdom has now recorded 15,818 cases of Omicron, 1,362 imported, and 14,456 community cases. Cambodia's COVID-19 case tally has now climbed to 136,259. The death toll stands at 3,056. The number of patients treated successfully since the pandemic reached Cambodia is 133,167, and the tally for imported cases has climbed to 21,219. And now for a look at news making international headlines this Thursday, 5th of May.
Mexican police found 280 migrants trapped behind a fake wall inside a truck abandoned on a highway near the southern town of Cordoba on Tuesday, May 3rd. According to a report from the Veracruz police, the migrants were from Nicaragua, El Salvador, Cuba, Ecuador, Guatemala, and Honduras, of which 18 of them were minors. Locals realized the migrants were trapped after they heard screams coming from a truck that broke down. Red Cross worker Jorge Garcia told Reuters. 3 migrants were taken to the hospital for dehydration. Police placed the migrants under the custody of the National Migration Institute, who will determine their legal status in the country.
Political counterparts have exploited and continued under-regulated growth of social media platforms for their own propaganda in the upcoming presidential elections in Colombia, where virtual reality is turning an advertising industry upside down. There is considerable concern about the role that social media, such as Meta platforms and Twitter, play in promoting propaganda during campaigns for the elections due to be held on May 29th. Between the 2 most likely candidates in Colombia, Meta would have been paid at least $250,000 with carefully targeted ads. Luisa Izala, a researcher at Green Lantern, said segments advertising is a valuable tool in generating more leads on social media, whether its candidates are targeting a specific neighborhood or the whole country. Despite the data transparent efforts offering by Meta through its open library, it is impossible to guarantee the legality of campaign financing. Izala suggested that the law should be equalized opportunities for candidates because some of them do not have enough money to pay for advertising and publicity like others. Algenaro Barra, the director of electoral observation missions, said that Colombia has built a control system for financing of political campaigns and elaborated in such a way that it does not work. She added that the interactions generated from online advertising may well come from real citizens, bots, trolls, and even external interests. She noted that her country's electoral authority is not strong enough to monitor the resources spent on campaigning in terms of validity and legality in Colombian law, especially with the presence of large territories with illegal economics. On the other hand, Isa said that we also know that more publicity does not necessarily mean a successful election. For example, the candidate Franca Marquez invested very little and still she was relevant to achieve good results. It should be noted that in recent years there is a continuous debate on social media propaganda around elections in America, France, Philippines, and more.
A Chinese expedition team successfully finished its latest comprehensive scientific expedition mission on Mount Chomolungma, or Mount Everest, on Wednesday, setting a number of new world records at the summit of the world's highest peak. The Chinese scientists involved in the expedition successfully reached the summit of the world's highest mountain, Mount Chomolungma, and established the world's highest automatic weather station at around 8,800 meters above sea level, just beneath the summit, a senior researcher said on Wednesday. At 12:46 local time on Wednesday, a total of 13 members of the Chinese expedition team reached the summit of Mount Chomolungma at a height of 8,848.86 meters, successfully set up the automatic weather station with the highest altitude in the world, and completed the most critical and challenging comprehensive task of their peak scientific research in order to study the climate change and its impact on the very high altitude area of the Qinghai Tibet Plateau under the background of global warming. 8 weather stations were set up from 5,200 meters to 8,830 meters above sea level, among which 4 stations were set up at the altitude of over 7,000 meters above sea level, realizing complete gradient meteorological observation at various altitudes of Mount Chomolungma. Yao Tandong, the leader of the expedition team, who is also an academician with the Institute of Tibetan Plateau Research under the Chinese Academy of Sciences, said they were able to lay a good foundation for a comprehensive scientific expedition and achieved success. The expedition team also transmitted meteorological data from the altitude of 8,830 meters above sea level to the Chomolungma base camp at the altitude of 5,200 meters above sea level for the first time. They used a glacier radar to measure the thickness of snow and ice and collected samples at the summit. In the next step, the expedition team will take advantage of the self-developed Type 3 Jimu No. 1 floating airship to carry out comprehensive scientific observation of the upper atmosphere. More than 270 members in 5 teams teams participated in the expedition, with the coverage of the largest number of academic disciplines, the participation of the largest number of scientific researchers, and with the use of the most advanced equipment. The expedition has been the largest since the survey on the Qinghai Tibet Plateau started in 2017. Protesters for and against support to Ukraine demonstrated in the Bulgarian capital Sofia on Wednesday, 4th of May, as lawmakers voted on how much support to give the country in its fight against Russian invasion.
The two sides, one calling for increased support for Ukraine's government and another pressing for Bulgaria to stay neutral, scuffed in front of the monument to the Soviet Union. Protesters Kirill Chakhankov said those who support the military aid to Ukraine thought proposals being debated in Parliament did not go far enough. Bulgaria's Parliament voted on Wednesday to allow repairs of Ukraine's heavy military equipment and seek ways to help Ukrainian exports to gain electricity, but circumvented proposals to provide direct military aid to Kiev. Konstantinov, the leader of the ultranationalist Revival Party, addressed counter-protesters, saying those in support of the aid to Ukraine wanted to see Bulgaria get involved in the conflict. Kirill Chakhanov, protester for Ukraine, said, "Today we began with a demonstration in front of the parliament. We support military aid to Ukraine. What is being voted on is not real military support. Here, there, an event announced and coordinated with the military and the police and wrapped the monument of the Soviet army. It is part of the cause of dismantling the infamous symbol of the occupying Red Army." The leader of the ultranationalist Revival Party, Konstantin Kostanov, said, "Those foreigners, those people waving foreign flags, those people who want Bulgaria to intervene with another's war, those people who want Bulgaria to get into the conflict, I want to tell them something. What you, foreigners, want, we Bulgarians won't allow. This here is Bulgaria, and only the word of Bulgaria will be heard. Long live Bulgaria. Let us not allow these sellouts to provoke us. This is Bulgaria. What we, the Bulgarians, are saying will not happen here, not the national traders. For national traders, there will be one sentence and it will catch up, and they will very soon." Another protester for support for Ukraine, Palem Soltov, told reporters that Ukrainians are the victims, and we must demonstrate to our friends in Europe that we are Europe. We are not the rest of the world. EU and NATO member Bulgaria has condemned the Russian invasion of Ukraine, supported sanctions against Moscow, refused to pay for Russian gas with rubles, and hosted more than 90,000 Ukrainian refugees.
Donetsk region police released video on Wednesday it said shows an attack at a coking plant of Ukraine's largest steelmaker in the eastern frontline city of Avdiivka, in which 10 workers were killed. The workers were killed at a bus stop on Tuesday, 3rd of May, as they waited for a bus to take them home after they finished their shift at the factory, the Donetsk governor Pavlo Kirilenko said. The video showed an explosion and people running to take cover as explosions were heard, as well as damage to the surrounding area and what appeared to be a number of body bags being placed in a van. Steelmaker Metinvest said on Wednesday it had offered to evacuate staff from the coking plant after the Russian shelling. The video was released on the police force's official YouTube channel. The locations of the video were verified by nearby buildings, Street View on Google Maps, and by file imagery of Avdiivka coking plant. Former political prisoner Christina Bawagan still has the dress she wore the day she was arrested, tortured, and sexually abused by soldiers during the late Philippines dictator Ferdinand Marcos's brutal era of martial law.
Babagan fears the horrors of Marcos' rule would be diminished if his namesake son wins the presidency in next week's election, a victory that would cap a 3-decade political fight back for a family driven out in a 1986 People Power uprising. Also known as Bong Bong, Marcos Jr. has benefited from what some political analysts describe as a decades-long public relations effort to alter perceptions of his family, accused of living lavishly at the helm of one of Asia's most notorious kleptocracies. Rivals of the family say the presidential run is an attempt to rewrite history and change the narrative of corruption and authoritarianism associated with his father's era. A fact-checking initiative for the May 9th vote told reporters last month it has debunked scores of martial law-related disinformation it says were used to rehabilitate, erase, or burnish the discreditable record of Marcos Sr. Marcos Jr.'s camp did not reply to written requests for comment from Reuters on Bavagan's story. Marcos Jr., who last week called his late father a political genius, has previously denied claims of spreading misinformation, and his spokesperson has said Marcos does not engage in negative campaigning. Bavagan, 67, said martial law victims like her needed to share their stories to counter the portrayal of the elder Marcos regime as a peaceful golden age for the Southeast Asian country. Bavagan said it is very important for people to see primary evidence that it really happened, while showing the printed dress which had a tear below the neckline where her torturer passed a blade across her chest and fondled her breast. The elder Marcos ruled for 2 decades from 1965, almost half of it under martial law. During that time, 70,000 people were imprisoned, 34,000 were tortured, and 3,240 were killed, according to figures from Amnesty International, figures which Marcos Jr. questioned in a January interview. Bavagan, an activist, was arrested on May 27, 1981 by soldiers in the province of Nueva Ecija for alleged subversion and brought to a safe house where she was beaten as they tried to extract a confession from her. The hardest thing was when they put an object in my vagina. That was the worst part of it, and all throughout I was screaming. No one seemed to hear, said Bavagan, a mother of 2. In a conversation with Marcos Jr. that appeared on YouTube in 2018, Juan Ponce Enrile, who served as the late dictator's defense minister, said not one person was arrested for their political and religious views or for criticizing the elder Marcos. However, more than 11,000 victims of state brutality during martial law later received reparations using millions from Marcos' Swiss bank deposits, part of billions the family siphoned off from the country's coffers and recovered by the Philippine government. Among them was Felix Dalisay, who was detained for 17 months from August 1973 after he was beaten and tortured by soldiers trying to force him to inform on other activists, causing him to suffer hearing loss. Dalisay said on the day of his arrest, he was kicked even before boarding a military jeep, so he fell and hit his face on the ground, resulting in a scar on his right eye. When they reached the military headquarters, Dalisay said he was brought to an interrogation room where soldiers repeatedly clapped his ears, kicked and hit him, sometimes with a butt of a rifle during questioning. They, the military, started by inserting bullets between my fingers and would slowly squeeze my hand. The soldiers were really strong and it was painful. They had many questions, and if they weren't satisfied with my answers, they would hit me, said Dalisay, pointing to different parts of his body. The return of Marcos to the country's seats of power is unthinkable for Dalisay, who turned 70 this month. It makes my blood boil, said Dalisay. The Marcos family will be back. The trauma during the times of the martial law, it all comes back. With Marcos' return, the memories of torture have all returned.
Let's have a look at today's finance. The CSX index is currently at 504.11 points, down 19.42 points or 3.71%. The daily exchange rate is 4,050 Khmer Real to the USD. And now a look at what else is happening in finance around the world.
Cambodia's export to RCEP members countries increased by 11% in the first quarter release date May the 4th of 2022. Cambodia's export to member countries of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership totaled US $1.956 million in the first 3 months of this year, up 11% over the same period last year, according to data from the Ministry of Commerce. For the January-March period, Cambodia's top 4 export designations were Vietnam, China, Thailand, and Japan, the data shows. Adding the kingdom shipped US $759 million worth of products to Vietnam, $322 million to China, $318 million to Thailand, and $306 million to Japan. The two-way trade between Cambodia and RCEP member countries was amounted to $8.062 million, inching down 2% over the same period last year, read the data. Regionally, Cambodia exported $1.172 million worth of goods to ASEAN member states, a year-to-year increase of 12%. Asian shares firm as Fed tempers aggressive rate hike bets. Asian shares tracked Wall Street gains on Thursday after the US Central Bank raised interest rates by 50 basis points, but sounded less hawkish tone. Some had feared lifting investment sentiment and sending the dollar lower. Crude prices meanwhile shot up as the European Union spelled out some of the details of its plan to ban the use of Russian oil, heightening concerns about supply. MSCI's broadcast index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan rose 0.93%, although trading was thin with Japanese and Korean markets closed for public holidays.
Asian gains followed as the US rally overnight, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 2.81% and the SP 500 gained 2.99% and the Nasdaq advanced 9.19%. Hong Kong's benchmark Hang Seng rose 0.77% in early trading, with the tech sector index 1.43%. This week, Hong Kong stocks have edged lower while the offshore Chinese yuan has been volatile through the stronger than it was last week. Australia's SP/ASX 200 also performed strongly with a 0.61% increase. However, China's benchmark CSI 300 opened 0.16% lower than mainland markets resumed trade after a three-day holiday. Wall Street closes with a sharp gains after Fed's interest rate hike. US stocks ended sharply after Wednesday after the Federal Reserve delivered a widely expected interest rate hike, and the SP 500 recorded its biggest one-day percentage gain in nearly 2 years. Stocks initially seesawed after announcement, then the index has strengthened. The SP 500 advance of almost 3% was the strongest since May 18, 2020. The US Central Bank set a target of federal funds rate of the rate between 0.75% and 1%, in an anomalous decision, with further rises in borrowing costs of perhaps similar magnitude likely to follow. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 932.27 points, or 2.81%, to 34,061.06. The SP 500 gained 124.69 points, or 2.99%, to 4,300.17, and the Nasdaq Composite added 401.10 points, or 3.19%, to 12,964.86. All of 11 major SP sectors rose, with energy leading with the gains. That's the latest news and finance. Tune in tomorrow for more.
After the break, a look at all the latest sports news.
If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
The shirt worn by Diego Maradona when he scored two of the most famous goals in soccer history was sold for £7.14 million on Wednesday, 4th May, marking a new auction record for an item of sports memorabilia.
Maradona wore Argentina's number 10 shirt in the 1986 World Cup quarterfinal against England in Mexico. 6 minutes into the second half, he put his team ahead by punching the ball into the net for what became known as the Hand of God goal. 4 minutes later, Maradona dribbled from his own half to score his goal, widely considered one of the greatest in World Cup history. England midfielder Steve Hodge got Maradona's jersey after the game and announced last month he was putting it up for auction after 19 years on display at England's National Football Museum. Sotheby's said the buyer was anonymous. The sale broke the previous record for sports memorabilia set by the original autographed manuscript of the Olympic Manifesto from 1892, which went for $8.8 million in 2019. The sale of Maradona's jersey was complicated by claims that the wrong shirt was going under the hammer, with his daughter and ex-wife saying Hodge received the shirt Maradona wore in the first half of the match. Sotheby's said they used photo matching technology to conclusively match the shirt to both goals by examining unique details on various elements of the item, including the patch, stripes, and numbering. Maradona, regarded as one of the world's best ever footballers, died in November 2020, aged 60.
National Primary School Athletics competition was officially opened on the morning of May 4th, 2022 at the National Olympic Stadium.
Speaking at the opening ceremony, Samheng Baro, Secretary of State of Ministry of Social Affairs, Veterans and Youth of Rehabilitation and President of the Khmer Amateur Athletics Federations, emphasised that the National Primary School Athletics competition is very important to train and recruit children after suspended for 2 years during the COVID-19 pandemic. I would like to thank the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports for organising this competition, and I am very happy to see children from 25 capitals and provinces participating in athletics competitions as we have nurtured them for love from an early age. The Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports provide accommodation, boarding and food for this year's national event. Samheng Baro added that this is an important issue to providing nutrient for children, which is a focus of the Minister. We know the competition training requires physical fitness through the supplement as well. Ms Heng Machu, Acting Secretary-General of the Khmer Federation of the Volunteer Athletes, stated that the National Primary School Sports Competition was organised by the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports with the technical cooperation of the Khmer Federation of Athletes in order to encourage students and parents, guardians of the public, coaches, assistant coaches and athletes are confident, supportive and actively involved with the Royal Government in making sports, especially athletics, more developed in the faster level. The former outstanding Cambodian national athlete added that the 2022 National Primary School Sports Competition will be held from the April 29th to May the 8th, 2022 under the slogan Sports for Peace and Fun with 8 sports, including athletes from May the 4th to 7th, 2022 with a total of 200 and male and female athletes. The National Primary School Athletics Competition has 9 different track and field competitions, including boys 60-metre sprint, girls 60-metre sprint, boys 800-metre sprint, girls 800-metre sprint, boys long jump, boys and girls high jumps, and mixed children's athletes.
And now for a look at how the weather will be playing out tomorrow. And finally, Legend Olympia hosted a high-security screening of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness last night, 4th May 2022. Fans rushed to the theater for the opportunity to be the first ones to watch this highly anticipated film and a chance to be interviewed for a premium item from Legend Cinemas. Unfortunately, not all fans have access to this movie.
After being embroiled in the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, Disney isn't backing away from saying gay with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. The latest Marvel Cinematic Universe film introduces a new character, America Chavez, who's being pursued for her superpower, the ability to cross the multiverse until Doctor Strange jumps in to help. The movie has sparked objections in some parts of the Middle East, according to media reports. An official in Saudi Arabia told the Guardian newspaper that Disney was asked to remove a brief clip that makes LGBTQ references. In the clip, Chavez's younger self is seen with two moms. Disney declined to cut same-sex references in the film and will not be released in Saudi Arabia or a handful of other Middle Eastern countries, a source familiar with the matter said. A representative for Saudi Arabia's government did not respond to a request for comment. Frustrated fans took to social media to express their disappointment on Twitter and in videos. One Marvel fan, Mavan Iman, couldn't understand the dispute over a 10-second scene.
As a Marvel fan and as a fan of cinema in general, this is incredibly disappointing because honestly, like we who live in Egypt and Saudi Arabia and stuff are huge cinema fans and huge Marvel fans, and to have a dispute over a film, over a short scene or a specific character with specific tendencies in 2022 is kind of ridiculous, to be honest.
The cast and crew of the movie expected this backlash, but stand firm in their story. Benedict Cumberbatch said that it's important to include a diversity in the cast and hope that the fans will be able to see the film sometime, somewhere.
It just makes it all the more important, I guess, that we have this inclusion of diversity in our cast. However, you know, I'd love to get to the point where this isn't a topic of conversation, but sadly, it really still is. And I just hope those fans, and I hope people who are being persecuted for their sexuality can somehow find a way of existing within those repressive regimes, and they have mine, the filmmakers and the studio's full support, and I hope they get to see the film regardless. I hope they get to see it safely somewhere, whether it's in their country or not.
Fans in Cambodia have fully booked tickets for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse Madness on the opening day to avoid spoilers. Legend Cinemas is hosting a lucky draw for all fans who purchase tickets to see the movie at all 12 branches for a chance to win premium items from the movie. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse Madness is available in all cinemas in Cambodia.
Thank you for watching the Daily Roundup on EAC News Channel. For more breaking news and updates, you can check out our website, eacnews.asia, or search EAC News on Smart TV, Telegram, or at your favorite app store. More from the EAC News team tomorrow night at 8 p.m. We will see you then.